My name is Avalon Loven, and I'm going to be doing a short sermon. The title of my sermon is Victory or Defeat. We all struggle with something. I've struggled with fear for years. One day my mom said, "Avalon, do you want victory or do you want defeat?" We all have to ask ourselves this question. I wanted victory, but God had to show me how to get it. The first truth that God showed me was Jesus is enough. We can't get the victory on our own. Only Jesus is enough. Only He is loving enough, strong enough, and knowing enough. The Samaritan woman in John 4 was chasing the world, trying to fill her heart. But Jesus told her, "I am enough for you." We've all tried to chase the world at one point, but Jesus always tells us, "I am enough." In my life, I've tried to chase friends. I felt like I needed to be accepted. But Jesus told me, He is enough. Only He is enough for me. Jesus always fights for us. Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Jesus hasn't given up on you either. Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified or afraid because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you and never forsake you. The second truth God showed me is to stand firm. Romans 8:31 says, "What then shall we say in response to this? If God is for us, who can be against us?" God is for us, so let's stand. Standing is trusting that Jesus is enough and taking a courageous stand against the enemy's schemes. We have Jesus in our heart. He is enough for us. In Psalms 108, verse 13, it says, "With God we will gain the victory, and He will trample down our enemies." Let's stand. Jesus has already won. He is the ultimate victor, and He is our victory. The third truth God showed me is to persevere until Jesus brings the victory. Sometimes we have to persevere to get the victory. Sometimes we have to fight for it. Romans 5, verse 3, "Not only so, but we will also rejoice in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance." Trust God and hold on to that truth, that we will finally get the victory, but we have to persevere to get it. When your strength is failing, call upon Jesus, because He is your strength. When I think of perseverance, I think of the story of Gideon. He started with 22,000 men, but God said he had too many men, so He narrowed it down to 10,000. Those who had to leave left because they were afraid. They didn't get the victory because they were afraid. Then God said, "You still have too many men, Gideon," and He narrowed it down to 300. Gideon had to persevere and trust that God was with him. That night, he heard an interpretation of a dream that he had already won because of God. He had the victory. He didn't need to be afraid. So Gideon and his army threw down some pots, blew some horns, and the victory was won. God had already planned the victory and had already won it. He just had to persevere and to trust that it was His. To wrap things up, sometimes things feel impossible, that we will never get the victory. But the truth is, Jesus is enough for us. Jesus is enough. We just have to stand and persevere through the trial. Will you choose to have victory, or will you admit defeat?